welcome into another episode of the IDP Trade Show. We are back talking about your trades. We have 21 trades lined up, offense and IDP. Very excited to dig into it with Adam Markham, Bobby Reynolds joining me as always here in the Sode Shack. But just for tonight, just for you people, because we love you, we have a very special guest. You know him from the Fantasy Footballers Dynasty podcast and the Fantasy Footballers DFS and Betting podcast. It is Kyle Borgognoni. Kai Borg, how are you, my friend? Welcome back to the shed.
I am so glad to be back in the Sode Shack, boys. I just want to say that when people ask me about IDP, I don't talk about anybody else. I talk about you guys. And I think more than just advice stuff, I just think I get what the show's about and I get you guys. So, I'm glad to be back and just to chop it up.
That's so sweet, Baba. We're going to drive down to Georgia and just spend some time with Kai Borg. We're going to do a live episode at your house, Kyle. I hope you're okay with that.
Georgia's a sweet place, man. I'm pretty bullish on the state. I moved all the way back because I love it. So, yeah, come on down.
Come on down. Be fun. We'll hop in the truck. Babo, you can drive us down there. I'll pack up the equipment. We'll go down and do a trade show from Georgia.
I gotta say though, if your humidity is any more than we got right now,
that's a problem.
I don't know. It might be September, October before we come down.
Yeah, it's gonna be tough.
It's probably just dirty everywhere down here.
It's a tough scene anywhere in the South right now. Very hot. Hot in the Sode Shack, though. Like we mentioned, we have 21 trades to break down. Thank you all so much for sending in your trades through the website, through Twitter. We got them in our best ball sleeper chat. So we're going to go through. And if you're watching live, thank you for tuning in. Drop your trade. It could be one that you've completed recently. It could be one that you've got sitting in your inbox. It could be one that you're thinking about. Drop it in the chat with as much detail as you can, and we'll break it down live on the show. But gentlemen, let's jump right into it. And like we said, we're going to be touching on some offensive trades as well tonight because we have an offensive guru here with us. So, Kyle, let's jump into it, my friend. And let's start with a trade from Alex Erickson. He said, traded Malik Willis, CeeDee Lamb, Anaya Smith for James Cook, Ray Davis, Garrett Wilson, a 2026 first-round pick, and a 2027 second-round pick. This is a 12-team Superflex IDP league. So, Kyle, we've got Malik Willis, CeeDee Lamb, Anaya Smith for James Cook, Ray Davis. So, basically the Buffalo backfield, Garrett Wilson, 2026 first, 2027 second, 12-teamer. What do you think about this one, man?
So the first thing that I like to do when I see extra pieces in a trade is really just block out some of the excess stuff. Like Malik Willis is not going to have another start in the NFL. Like it's just not happening. And so when I look at him, even a super flex, it's like, it's one of those things where you get a fluky week 17, week 18 thing where he's, the backup, but he's worthless in this deal. Anaya Smith is a, late round pick. So really this is asking for CeeDee Lamb. Did Alex receive enough in return? That's kind of like my big question when I look at this. So James Cook entering year 3, Ray Davis. So he's got the backfield, Garrett Wilson, and then these picks. So is that enough for CeeDee Lamb is kind of where I'm landing at. And so I think depending on, you guys can talk about like IDP wise, like 2026 feels so far away, but having a first round pick is nice. I think it's more than enough to justify it. It's just one of those things. If you need running back depth and you're saying, I want to have the Buffalo backfield, I want to, shore it up for my team. And I look at the approach of Buffalo and saying, okay, well, now they're going to run a lot of 12 personnel. James Cook saw a ton of work, 20 plus opportunities in the second half. Then I think it's fine, but I don't think that it's like overwhelming. If I had CeeDee Lamb, it's like, oh, this is over the top. But I think it's fair value.
Yeah, that's kind of where I came down, Addy, is like CeeDee Lamb is far and away the best piece in this trade. So I think I'd rather just have CeeDee Lamb. But I understand if you're a Garrett Wilson believer and you get the Buffalo backfield, which I think you have the Buffalo backfield in our main Dynasty League.
Yeah.
So how'd you feel about this one?
Yeah, I mean, I like the package here. I mean, I think that it's a bit of a win-win in the sense that you get, pieces this year. You get the Garrett Wilson should be primed for an awesome year. I mean, looking at keep trade cut. He's wide receiver 7. CeeDee Lamb is wide receiver 2. So I mean, these guys aren't far off in dynasty value.
Yep.
And then I mean, I think that Garrett Wilson's going to have a big year. And then that extra first, I mean, that's going to be nice at some point, like Kai Borg said. So yeah, I mean, I think you get some pieces to help you this year with depth. You get the better pieces potentially long term too. So yeah, I like the package.
All right, so you're on the package side. Kyle, it sounds like you're coming down on the trade is fair. I guess it depends on where you're at, right? Because you may need running back depth. Maybe you're playing a little bit more for the future. But if you had to come down on a side, are you down on the CeeDee side or the package side?
I think I lean the package side. Like, I like James Cook. He's somebody that I am actively trying to trade for right now. And I look at those other pieces in the deal as like the sweetener, like you mentioned. It's a first round pick, another second. It's like, I think that takes it over the top. I will say there are some things with Garrett Wilson that terrify me because we're banking on a lot of things to happen. I mean, most targets ever through the first 2 years of the NFL, but also like of all the players that have seen 200 plus targets, he's like bottom 5 in NFL history and efficiency in a lot of marks. So it's like, can it get better? Sure. But this is a quarterback that's about to be 41. And honestly, like, we haven't seen him actually have an elite season in 3 years. So I wouldn't say Garrett Wilson is like a locked and loaded, it's going to happen. But these players have such a long time just to like hold value. Like, Garrett Wilson could fart around again, be at wide receiver 25, and he's still going to hold value because we're still going to have hope. He's super young. So yeah, I lean on the package side.
Okay, Bobo, it's a fair trade. I think it's definitely fair value to cash out on CeeDee. I'd probably come down on the CeeDee side. What say you, Bobo?
So I was listening to a podcast, I think it was the week before last, the Fantasy Footballers Dynasty podcast.
Now,
You turd.
The host there was talking about how no team saw a higher rate of cover 4 looks than the Eagles did in 2023. Kellen Moore now, the OC in Philly, where he was in Dallas, now with the Chargers, and then now obviously with Philadelphia. Kellen Moore was known to pepper the slot wide receiver over and over with targets, and I quote. Okay, so now I understand A.J. Brown. I understand Devonta Smith.
Is Bobby going to come down on the Aeneas Smith side as the deal breaker here?
I understand that both of those guys like have a ton of value right now as far as wide receiver goes in Dynasty. But hear me out. Aeneas Smith could actually win the starting slot position there in Philly. It's Paris Campbell. It's Quez Watkins. It's a bunch of nobodies. Devonta Smith has actually increased his slot percentage of routes run over the last couple of years. 11% 2021, 25% in 2022, and then 30% in 2023. So while James Cook is fun, Ray Davis, you have the handcuff. You do have Garrett Wilson, a couple first. I am not trading CeeDee Lamb and maybe something in Aeneas Smith for the package. Because I'm exactly with Kyle in the fact that I like Garrett Wilson. The trajectory looks like he's going to be a top 10 dynasty wide receiver for the next 4 or 5 years. But what if? This looks like one of those trades where you can look down the road in 2 or 3 years and be like, oh, man, I wish I had just kept CeeDee.
It's a toss-up for me, wide receiver outlook-wise, because we could be looking at both a Jets and Cowboys team that had different quarterbacks in 2025.
I missed one thing. Aeneas Smith, 75% of the slot percentage when he was at A&M. So
wow,
just a little
some Aeneas Smith breakdown for you.
Hey, I'm a fan.
Gens out there. I think, Cowboys will be set. I think they do re-sign Dak. Who knows what the Jets look like past this year? Do they upgrade the quarterback situation? Are they stuck in purgatory, wasting more of Garrett Wilson's kind of ascension? So I think this is a fair trade. It sounds like you're on the CeeDee side, side, and you guys are on the package. So I think that's a sign of a pretty fair deal.
Yeah. I'll probably trade Garrett Wilson.
Yeah,
I think he's a little overvalued, but I mean he is valued. Like there are people very hyped about him.
I'm not a Garrett Wilson believer in the way the market is a believer.
Right.
So I'm happy to cash out and sell for a profit.
Yeah. And I'm fine just acquiring all those little assets, and I think I can. Yeah, I think those running backs will surprise.
I think they'll be pretty valuable. Yeah. I think you'll want to have the Buffalo backfield.
I agree.
Okay. Well, next up here we have an IDP trade, and this was an interesting one from Scott. Scott says that this is a 10-team dynasty contract league. He has Bobby Okereke with 1 year left on his contract, so he's going to lose him to free agency after the season. He has a trade offer straight up for Nick Bolton, and he can basically give Bolton 2 or 3 more years on this new deal once he acquires him. So you're basically looking at expiring Bobby Okereke for Nick Bolton, 2 to 3 more years on the deal potentially. Addy, we'll start off with you on this one. Expiring Bobby O or 2 to 3 more years of Nick Bolton?
It really depends on where this guy's at as far as his team, right? If he's contending, I think I may take the sure thing in Bobby O. But if he's kind of in a rebuild mode, yeah, I'll take Nick Bolton for 3 years because, I mean, I have those guys like, I think I have Okereke like 4. And then I have Nick Bolton top 10 as well. So, I mean, they're not far apart from me. And Bolton is like 3 or 4 years younger than Okereke. So,
yeah, if your other linebackers are set, I think just get a possibly top 10 linebacker with more years on his deal.
Right.
Versus expiring Bobby O, but I think for 2024, I definitely want Bobby O.
I mean, he
head
was
and shoulders above Nick Bolton.
He was number 1 in points per game last year.
Yep.
Victory scoring. So, yeah, I mean, that's the situation hasn't really changed that much for him. So, I mean, I'd expect another, high finish like that.
Okay.
And obviously Bolton can do that as well. We know how that's been going there
we don't know
for a while.
We don't know. Bobo, I'll kick it to you because you are obviously the Nick Bolton stand in the room.
Yeah, it is a little interesting, right? Because now new defensive coordinator up there in New York from Tennessee. We just saw the season that Azeez Al-Shaair had in Tennessee. Pretty much crazy, career numbers for Al-Shaair. 163 total tackles, 2 sacks. Bobby Okereke is probably going to be asked to play a little bit more man coverage this year, I have a feeling. From all the kind of inclinations as far as what the GM has said, it looks like they're probably going to let those Brian Burns, Azeez Ojulari, Kayvon Thibodeau let the front 4 rush and then play a little bit of man behind that. So I don't mind that for Bobby O. I think that's honestly where he shines, 82.5 PFF grade in coverage in 2023. You're right. Adam, the IDPshow.com and Adam's ranks, Bobby O is 27.9 years old, while Bolton is 24.2. There is the Drew Tranquill question of, 22 pressures in 2023. Tranquill had great PFF numbers last year. Are we going to see 2022 Nick Bolton is what we're basically asking ourselves in 2024. I'm probably going to lean the Nick Bolton side just because I love him. But Adam's probably right. It depends on where your team is at. If you're contending, probably stick with Bobby O. But if you feel like you're middle of the pack to maybe be a rebuilding squad, I could see maybe rolling with Bolton.
Yeah, I think it just depends on where you're at. Kyle, we should mention, obviously you are on the Fantasy Footballers Offensive Dynasty podcast, but you recently joined an IDP league, and not just an IDP league, gents, but an IDP contract league. So you have gone full degen. You are one of us.
I blame you guys.
I know, right? It's just I think you wanted to be in the cool kids club with us, and now you're here. You're loving it.
You wanted to truly know ball.
You did.
Understand.
Yeah, you wanted to know both sides of the ball. And how's it been going? Your first IDP league. What's that been like so far?
Yeah, I just wanted to get my hand in the dirt, boys. So tired of just running wind sprints with the rest of the wide receivers. So I think hearing y'all's conversations, because listen to the show, know you guys, and then also know how you guys talk about, like in this instance, you're saying like, okay, well, I get 2 to 3 years of this player. I think that's been the biggest learning curve for me is understanding with contracts. Okay, this player is expiring, but like you mentioned, Bobby O's an elite player. What do I do with that? And especially at the linebacker position. Like I have, like for instance, on my team, 2 or 3 guys I feel really safe with. And so do I kind of build for the future and get younger assets? So it's been a fun learning curve. And I do like my favorite thing right now, and I've talked to Josh about this, is like, I just want to figure out how to stream cornerbacks so the rest of my league just farts around. And, so that's exciting for me because there's some people that know some things in my league. They understand, but they don't know. They don't get it. They don't know ball.
Yeah, they don't have the inside track at the IDP show.
And where we have a streaming cornerback
We have a
article that goes out.
7,000 word streaming cornerback article every single week. So just hearing Kyle say stream cornerbacks just makes my heart flutter.
Oh yeah.
In ways I haven't experienced in years. So, but Kyle, this next one is for you. We have a trade submitted via the comments. Thank you to Will Power. And this one I think is going to be a good one for you, Kyborg. So Will Power says, I traded Ridley, Pittman, and Ford. Who would that Ford be? Maybe
Jerome.
Yeah. A lot of Jerome hype lately.
Yeah, so Jerome Ford for the 102 and Aiden Hutchinson in a PPR deep keeper league. In a vacuum, it doesn't look good, but my wide receivers are JJ, Amon-Ra St. Brown, AJ Brown, Puka, and Waddle. Start 8 IDP, and my DL is doo-doo emoji. So Ridley, Pittman, and Jerome Ford for the 102 and Aiden Hutchinson.
What does he mean it doesn't look good? He's on the 102 side?
What are we talking about here? Yeah, he traded those for the 102 and
he did
for
great.
Hutchinson. Yeah, I was going to say, this is an absolute slam dunk. Kyle, you can speak to it kind of on the offensive side, but getting the 102 back, I mean,
it works without Aiden Hutchinson.
That was my exact thought. Is like, even if I don't have full context of Aiden Hutchinson, I feel like this is a more than fair package to get the 102. Like Jerome Ford entering year 3, he was fine last year filling in. If you look at his game logs, it's like he had more top 24 weeks than Breece Hall, but he also like was kind of always in that RB 21, 22 range. Like, so he was fine to fill in for teams. I love Pity City, and I think Ridley is going to have some boom bust weeks that can be helpful, but it's like you look at this team and to get a young asset at the 102, and then you guys can tell me, but like, I'm assuming Hutchinson is like, would be wild to be able to get somebody like that at this point in their career.
He's a top 6 asset. If you play in like a big play league, you know, that rewards sacks pretty heavily. Yeah, he's a stud. He's going to be a beast for the next decade.
I'm not sure if Josh didn't make like dynasty IDP ranks. You might have Aiden like top 2, top 3.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I think Aiden is worth a first on his own.
Oh yeah.
Maybe a first plus.
Aiden or Pittman, straight up.
Yeah, I think that's a wash.
That's a very good question. I would consider that a wash. So I think this is an absolute slam dunk. It sounds like Will wasn't crazy about his own trade, but I love this for Will.
He sounds like a humble guy.
Yeah. Well,
Will Power too. I love that. I love this guy.
Look at the wide receivers, man. And it's like, give me Hutch, but also give me the 102.
Yeah.
When I'm sitting here on a gold mine of like how many top 10 dynasty wide receivers is that? 5?
And you tell me what happens when a guy named Will Power gets a hold of an Aiden Hutchinson.
Uh-oh.
What happens?
I don't know, but it sounds scary.
It's like max power.
A lot of explosions, I imagine. So, I don't know.
Adam, mute your microphone. You're in timeout for the next 5 minutes. Thank you, Will, for that question. Hopefully that was a good breakdown, but a very nice trade, sir. Let's move on to the next trade here from Michael Potter. These were 3 final piece trades in his league. So he is 12-team, 1 QB, made 3 trades over the last couple months, might have overpaid, but feel these guys are the depth final pieces for a run this year. So let's just kind of break these down one by one here, guys. I'll kind of go around the room and get everybody's take here. Gave up my 2025 first-round pick for Jack Campbell. 5 years left on his contract, and I live in the Detroit area. That's
my favorite part.
That's a little bit of an overpay. We're gonna see. Yeah, we're going to see another trade here in just a little bit with Jack Campbell where the guy gave up a lot less for Jack.
It could be fine, right? I mean, Jack Campbell could easily come out here and be like a stud. You know, he could get 90 to 100% of the snaps next year, put up 15 points per game, and it looks fine. But still, man, you're paying like top shelf.
And we're talking final piece trades. If you're talking final piece trades, go flip a pick for Fred Warner or a Bobby O or a top guy, not Jack Campbell.
XFFL right now, you trading Roquan for a 25 first?
Probably.
Right? So that's the best linebacker, you know.
Right. Yeah, no, if you're going to trade for any IDP linebacker, you go trade for DeMario Davis, Levante David, Bobby Wagner. Like, that's who you go trade for.
I think I would just rather trade a lesser pick for one of these under the rate. Like, go flip. Can you get DeMario Davis for a 3rd right now?
You can get him for a 4th, probably.
Yeah, that's the trade.
Yeah, that's what you do. Don't go trading any any first. For
Jack Campbell is just not a final
for a
piece.
line.
of
I will
linebacker.
say though, it is fun sitting back and watching Ernest Jones on a Sunday. So I get the whole Detroit area, watching your team, watching your LB. There is that side of it.
Go
also.
trade a third for Alex Anzalone.
Sure, could have done that too.
You know, I just feel like yes, it could be fine, but as we sit here right now,
Trying to make
Or
you
you could have got him.
feel good,
You could have
Josh.
got him for a fourth, like you know, in your rookie drafts.
Yeah.
In
Yeah.
May.
yeah,
So
real
25
quick.
first there.
Will says thanks, guys. Thank you, Will. Appreciate you
Thank you,
tuning
Will.
in, bud. Thank you for
Mhm.
sending in the trade.
I'd stay in that league, Will.
Let's go to
Yeah.
Michael's second trade.
And that's why you should play IDP, because there's people that don't know how to value
Yes.
these
Oh, yeah.
guys.
Yes. Just
And,
threw in Aiden Hutchinson along with the 102. That's beautiful. Kyle, I want to get your take on this one because I don't really know how to value Drake May in a one quarterback league. So Michael traded another 2025 first and two 2025 seconds for Fred Warner. He can re-sign him for 4 more years, and Drake May. So the Fred Warner piece is great. That is a top 3 linebacker in Dynasty. So thumbs up there. I think I would probably give a 25 second for Fred. But you've got another 25 second and a 25 first, and then this Drake May character in there. I don't know, Kyle. What's your temperature on May? This feels like a little bit of an overpay here.
I feel like in a one quarterback league, he's a fun player to have and be able to wait on, but it just feels like a little cute trying to thread the needle on a new offense. So it's a Cleveland offense that Alex Van Pelt's bringing over, going to be run heavy. And I like Drake May a lot. Like his film is super fun, but I think at the end of the day, it just feels like a player that won't be as necessary right now. And if you want to shoot for the moon and this is like your QB3 and you don't really need it, it's fine. So looking at this deal, if it's just Warner in this deal, is that an overpay or is that like the right price?
That's a pretty big overpay.
Mhm.
A
Okay.
first and
Well,
2
yeah.
seconds.
About the Mac Warner could get it be a first. I
A
would
first.
think.
And
Okay,
here's
well
the
then
thing.
it's an
It's tough.
overpay then.
It's tough too because he also gave up another 25 first for Jack Campbell. I'm fine giving up the 25 first if Fred Warner is your final piece trade asset that you're acquiring. But you also gave up another first for Jack Campbell. Why not just send one first for Fred Warner?
And I just hate building in the offseason like this.
Mhm.
You know, like
Yeah.
it's just too much can go wrong. We are surprised every single year with stuff. Like it's waiting. Like if you're gonna trade assets, like wait and do it at the trade deadline
Yeah.
in season
Mm-hmm.
when teams have an incentive to sell. But I know it's easy to get bored in the offseason. You want to look at your roster and you want it to be as strong or stronger than everyone else's. But man, I think once those drafts roll around, you're gonna regret not having some of those picks,
Yeah, I think
especially those first.
Yeah, I think the first is what makes it tough, especially giving up 2 firsts and 2 seconds. So you basically sacrifice your entire 2025 draft. I mean, I don't know how many picks that Michael has. Maybe he has a ton. Maybe he has like 5 or 6 first round picks.
Right.
But assuming you just have maybe an extra first and an extra second, you've given up the entire top of your draft for Jack Campbell, Fred Warner, and Drake May.
Yeah.
That's just not enough. That's not enough.
I mean, Drake May in one QB leagues was going like 3rd round.
Right. Yeah. I mean, like, what's his ceiling? Like, if he got to be Justin Herbert, like,
Yeah.
what's Justin Herbert worth in a 1 QB league?
Yeah.
High
Second.
second,
Like,
Yeah, high second. I mean, last year it would have been different, but yeah, I think with May, and I think a lot of teams are trying to build this way in the actual NFL. Is like, let's find our quarterback, then we'll pair them together. It's kind of like the Cardinals. It's like, okay, Kyler's our guy. Now we're gonna outfit him with weapons. We got Trey McBride, got Marvin Harrison. With the Patriots, you don't know if Drake May's the guy, and you know for certain they don't have the weapons right this second. So it's just, I mean, they're projected for the lowest wins in the league. So if anything, 2024 is going to give you nothing of substance from Drake May. His value is only going to go down, in my opinion. And a super flex is different, but like it's only going to go down to one quarterback league where you're going to have an effect like you saw with Bryce Young, where even if someone's drafted really high, if they move backwards, it's really hard to start up momentum for quarterbacks. And I've written some stuff on like we overdraft quarterbacks in super flex and rookies, and then we don't realize that it's basically like a 50% hit rate of any of these guys ever having a top 12 season. So I like May. I'm rooting for May, but I think at this point, like it's wishful thinking.
Yeah, I agree. Well, let's go to Michael's final trade here. Luke Musgrave and a 2025 second for Kyle Hamilton. I think Musgrave's a fine tight end. I'm not going to be up in arms about this piece of the deal. For me, it's basically looking at a 2025 second for Kyle Hamilton, which I feel like this is a fair trade. I feel like this is the final piece trade that I can get behind. Yep. If you wanted to flip a 2025 second for Kyle Hamilton, we know K-Ham is going to be good in 2024 and beyond because we've seen it. Whereas with Jack Campbell, we just have not seen that production yet. We're hopeful, but we're not certain that this guy is going to be good.
Yeah.
So this one I feel fine.
Yeah, I feel good about this one. K-Ham's a baller. He'll be a top 10 safety at worst, over the next 5-6 years.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I like this.
Cool. Bobo, any thoughts here on Musgrave in a second
Fine.
for
Yeah, it's just
K-Ham?
weird. I'm with you, Adam. It's a weird time frame to be acquiring some of these guys.
Yep.
I'm hoping that he just has an excessive amount of 2025 picks, and that's kind of what's going on here. It's just a strange array of characters in June to go get. But hey, whatever. You do you.
Yeah. So thank you, Michael, for the trade. Look, we have to be honest with the folks out there. We can't just butter them up because they send in some trades.
I've made tons of bad trades.
Oh,
when
yes,
I first started
God.
playing. I remember sending away a first-round pick for Jamal Adams, early in my IDP career.
Sent a first-round pick for Deshaun Jackson when he was balling out. I think with Tampa Bay, maybe.
I've never made a bad trade.
Bobby's made.
Bobby hasn't. He really
Bobby's
hasn't.
made 1,000 trades.
Yeah.
So.
There's one or two bad ones.
There's one or two bad ones at least. Look, we all have them on our track record. Kyle, no. Kyle's spotless. But now he's
Never.
getting into IDP, so maybe some bad trades coming. All right, so another comment from Will here. Let's throw this one on the screen. It is, as Will said, not a trade question. Keepers don't have to be made until late August. But Will asks, so in that same league where he made the trade, who would you not keep out of TJ Edwards, Nick Bolton, and Ernest Jones? If I keep all three, I have to throw back either Christian Watson, Jamison Williams, or George Kittle. I think you let Bolton go.
Can I answer that?
Yes.
I'd send back Christian Watson.
You send back Christian Watson.
Absolutely.
And keep the three linebackers?
Yes.
Okay.
Wouldn't you?
Okay.
Yeah, I think so.
Dontavion Wicks, Jaden Reed.
Let's have Kyle weigh in here on Christian Watson. What are we to make of this?
His hamstrings are not
yes.
They're optional. Like in his created character, they're just clicked off. So that's tough. I'm not a doctor. It's not a doctor. But when he was on the field, he was their wide receiver one, and he was commanding the type of targets that we want. So it's one of those things where you go back and forth. Is he Will Fuller? Is that all he is? It's like, okay, when he's on the field, you're his big plays, but this dude will never be on the field. I mean, you could poke holes in Jamison Williams too and say there's some major issues. I mean, the dude he doesn't have a 14-point fantasy game yet. He's like,
that's not great.
No, through 2 years, it's like Philip Dorsett. It's the worst of the worst first round picks. It's Jamison Williams. But I guess, is this person saying they're going to keep all three linebackers and they'll have to throw back one of these guys?
Yes, if they keep all three linebackers, one of those offensive guys has to go back in the pot.
This is where we're getting Kyle. Look at him. He's thinking so hard right now. He's like, all right, now I've got to balance these IDP guys, and now I've also got to think about Christian Watson. How much do I value them?
I could not in good conscience let go Christian Watson. No, there's got to be some other bum on this roster.
Yes. So if it's a keeper aspect, I guess you're not really trading them.
Yeah.
That's the tricky part.
Yeah.
Because you inherently, like Christian Watson and Jamison Williams, do have value.
Remember, this is a start 8 league. I think this is something, start 8 IDP.
Yeah, but if it's Watson, Watson's on the fringe of making the cut anyway. So I'm you're going to replace him next year, probably regardless, right? After his rookie draft, wouldn't you think? Is he going to bring somebody in that's more talented than Christian
Okay,
Watson?
that makes sense.
I would think so. I would just look at it as a 1-year thing.
Yeah.
Let's roll it back with these 3 stud linebackers. You got, 3 guys that are potentially top 12 type linebackers.
Will said that Aaron Jones and Ramondre Stevenson could also be tossed back.
Those are all tough.
I know this is
Yeah, it's
a
pretty
good
tough.
roster. I think these are the types of decisions that are tough to make.
I think I would throw back Watson though.
So you're throwing back Watson. Bobo, you're throwing back
Ditto.
Watson. I'm throwing back Bolton. Kyle, what are you doing?
Oh.
Yeah, let's kick a linebacker to the curb.
See
Let's
you,
do
Bolton.
it.
You're gone.
Oh,
All right, so
man.
another
Kyle, you just took a level
tough
down
decision
there.
there for Will. Let's go to
Y'all
another.
believe in Jordan Love, real quick?
I do. I'm a Jordan Love believer.
Got him
Yes.
in XFL. So
Yeah, it's true.
Main league.
That's
what do you think, Kyle?
So he's going to regress in the touchdown department, and some of the efficiency of like some of the receivers, like Jaden Reed, was off the charts in just fantasy points per touch. So there's a point of looking at some of their receivers and going, ugh, that's not repeatable. But this team also had 4 rushing touchdowns from their running backs. 4. Like it was a wild total. So I think that it can still be balanced out where this is a good offense and there's enough playmakers. Like we like Wicks a lot. We've talked to him up a ton. I think Watson fits their offense if he can just stay on the field. So I think Love feels stable, which is weird to say. He's also running. He didn't run at Utah State at all. Like I remember doing his eval. And it's like, why is this guy not running? And he's running in the NFL. So I think fantasy wise, like I think his floor is pretty high.
Yeah, I think I love him as like a QB2. I don't know that I necessarily want him as my QB1 in a 1 QB league, but if you got Superflex or 2 QB leagues, that's where I want Jordan Love. And I think he's going to be a good. I think the Packers are going to be a very good team. I like him a lot more for just real NFL purposes than for fantasy.
That's a good team.
It's a very good team. Young
Run
team,
game's really
well-coached.
good now.
Do
You
what?
know, run game's really good now.
Yep.
with
Josh Jacobs is
and
going to eat.
And Marshawn Lloyd.
Marshawn
Marshawn
right?
Lloyd. Yep.
AJ
So,
Dillon.
AJ, get you some quads. Let's do a trade from Chad here. And Kyle, we're going to lead off with you on this one. So Chad said that he is in a 10-team dynasty, Superflex, PPR, 12 offense, 12 defense, 29 bench, 8 IR. So pretty big rosters. It is, PPR tackle heavy-ish format. So Chad traded Christian Kirk, Grant Delpit, and the 106. This is an important note here. This is a 2 tight end, but it is no distinct tight end scoring. So it's not tight end premium, but you do start 2 tight ends. So he traded Christian Kirk, Grant Delpit, and the 106 for David Montgomery, Travis Kelce, and the 507. Kyle, what's your read on this one?
So just to get a gauge for Grant Delpit, I'm assuming Brown safety, correct?
Yep.
LSU guy, I believe.
Yep.
Yep.
I think he like around like in terms of like DB world, like top 10-ish, top 12-ish.
He's like
Top 24.
15 to
Yeah.
24. So
Okay.
He's a
I
DB
could-
too.
he's fine.
Okay. So I think that this price, like knowing that you have to start 2 tight ends, does make Kelce like a little bit more valuable. So I like David Montgomery a lot for where he goes, like in the redraft circles. The scariest thing about Montgomery is like everything seems all system go for the Lions. Like, oh, this offense is going to be great. It's going to be really good. 90% of his fantasy points came on the ground last year. That's scary for year to year, like production. Like, you know, Derrick Henry can do that kind of stuff because he's not normal. David Montgomery's a good player, but he's not like a superhuman player the way that Derrick Henry was. So when you have 90+% of your fantasy points come via the ground and you don't have the passing work, it does bring in some volatility. This same Lions team had this with Jamal Williams, where he got a ton of work on the ground, ton of touchdowns. So I think with David Montgomery, it's really asking if your team needs running back at RB2, and you just saying like, I need to get some production there. I know that he's going to get a ton of red zone work. I think I'm totally fine with the deal. Like the 507, I almost like throw that out. It doesn't even matter to me that much looking at the deal. So I think if you are in a win now mode, you need an RB2 spot, and you're like, hey, I'm rolling with Kelce, I'm totally fine with it.
Yeah, exactly. It's win now. Like that's the Montgomery Kelce side. Because I mean, yeah, I think Montgomery could once again be in double-digit touchdowns. I mean, I think that could easily happen next season. And then Kelce, I mean, he's already said he's going to continue to play until the wheels fall off. So I mean, he's rejuvenated with the Taylor Swift stuff. I mean, I could see him playing another 3-4 years. You know, just getting bigger and bigger and bigger. becoming the biggest. Maybe being president at some point. Truly.
I checked out totally and missed your entire comment, and I'm not sad that I did.
Travis Kelce's going to be the president.
Oh,
is what
true.
it
Yeah, he's
boils down
dancing on
to.
stage at the Eras Tour right
Yeah.
now. So
Right.
he's a big deal.
He's the biggest, one of the biggest people in the world.
He really is. Him and Taylor are sort of like the power couple of the moment right now. Eddie, you've captured the zeitgeist once again.
It matters. People need to be
does.
talking about it more.
People do be talking. We do have a comment chiming in. I don't know if this is the same Chad. Maybe this is the same
Ooh.
Chad. Chad Parsons checking in from Twitter. Thanks for checking in, Chad. Even one big year from Kelce makes this worthwhile considering the premium. It is essentially 106-ish for Kelce. 507 is a priority waiver claim. So Chad is on the Kelce side. You're on the Kelce side.
I do like the package, though. I mean, I've always been a big Kirk fan. I mean, that 106 is going to be nice.
Yeah.
I would actually take the Kirk side.
Yeah.
Because I think I would rather have Christian Kirk and Rome Odunze over Travis Kelce.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Superflex, that 107 is going to be pretty nice.
It won't be Bowers, though, in that setting. I
No,
wouldn't
Bowers
think.
will probably be gone. You know, Neighbors is going to be gone. Marv's going to be gone.
Yeah, at 106, you probably have three
BTJ,
quarterbacks go.
Worthy.
Top six.
That's
Definitely Jaden Daniels.
I'd say
definitely
Bowers goes top
Caden-
5.
Caleb
so
Williams. So you're looking at 106 there, you're probably getting
Rome. Or the third quarterback.
yeah. So you got, let's just call it Rome Odunze and Christian Kirk for Travis Kelce. I think I'd rather have Kirk and Rome Odunze.
Yeah.
Wow, no mention of Montgomery.
Yeah,
It's messed up.
interesting.
I mean, Montgomery's fine.
Yeah, I mean he's a nice little depth piece.
I think
Give
I,
you some 2 touchdown weeks.
I think
potentially.
yeah, the touchdown upside I think is still there, but Gibbs I just feel like is in for such a monster year.
Yeah.
That feels like a RB1 season just
Yeah.
kind of looming.
It's not a trade that I would make. I don't want to go giving up the 106 ever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, someone made it, so
Mm.
you made your bed.
It is a trade that
You gotta-
happens.
you gotta
Thank you
lie
for
in it.
confirming that, Addy. Much appreciated. Some gripping insight. So let's move on to the next trade here. Babo, did I get you to weigh in? Where did you come down on this
I
one?
probably will take the Kirk and
Okay.
the pick side.
So we're on the same side
Sure.
on that one. Okay, so Will did say thanks for the opinion, guys, with the laughing face. We basically split right down the middle on both of his questions.
fine.
So he's as conflicted as
Great.
ever. We did
We
nothing
had to
to
bring him
help
down a little bit. We built him up and
Got a little too high.
So from Jake Swift, so we
Uh-oh.
have
Taylor's
three
brother.
trades from
Swifties in the
Taylor's,
comments.
Taylor's brother Jake.
Told you, boys.
So this is a 14-team Superflex tight end premium, 1.5 for tight end premium, big play, point bonuses, 1 point per first down, and big play-ish scoring. Really big play. I mean, big for tackles, 2-point solos, 1 point assist, 3-point TFL, 6-point INT, 3-point pass defended, 6-point sack. So big play
Hell yeah, brother.
all the way around. Love to see it, Jake. And so Jake had 3 trades, and we're just going to run through these. And Kyle, we'll kick you off on this first one. The first trade from Jake was Travis Etienne for Ramondre Stevenson and Travis Kelce. What do you think about this one?
I think it makes sense. Depending on what you had on your roster and what you're working with, it makes sense. Ramondre's contract extension you just got, which is wild, 17 million guaranteed for a 26-year-old running back feels like it's not for 2024. But and then Kelce. So I think it's an even trade, counting in the youth of ETN. But I'm fine with this, and I'd rather have Ramondre and Kelce in this instance if your team is desperate and you don't have a tight end.
Yeah, tight end premium. Give me Ramondre Stevenson and Travis Kelce over ETN. Addy, where do you come down on this one?
Yep, same.
Same. Babo,
I kind of want ETN here.
you've always been an ETN stan.
I've always been a lover. It's interesting
Lover.
how many Kelce trades I have seen so far.
I know this is quite a
offseason.
few.
Yeah, if you're in contention, good time to trade for him. But you don't care about the big bag Ramondre just got.
I'm an
I
Antonio-
do like
I'm an
it. I
Antonio
think it's
Gibson
going to
stan.
be a much better Patriots offense than what we've seen.
Mhm.
I think it might take some time, but I think that it can't be worse than it's been.
Yeah.
Like,
Etienne was damn good last year too.
yeah, and that Jaguars offense.
He finished
should be
what?
better.
What did he finish as?
ETN
3.
Yeah.
RB3.
Yeah.
1,008, 11 touchdowns, 58 for 476 through
The
the
tight
air.
end premium is what tilts it for me because you get the bonus
Kelsey's
there.
gonna ball
Yeah,
still.
Kelsey could have a couple more years. I think that a lot of people are trading him in Dynasty because they're worried. Kelsey could play 2 or 3 years.
They may also just be sick of the Taylor Swift like Travis Kelce. Now they're making
That's
this is not a
also
joke.
possible.
They are making a Hallmark movie.
They should.
About the Chiefs kind
They
of
should.
magical.
And she's gonna.
You got to get that bag, that
That's
cash
right.
right now.
That's
Yeah.
you got to do it. Strike while the iron's hot. I get it.
She'll make sure he has the best, staff in the world around him all the time.
We're gonna see a Russell Wilson type glow up with Travis Kelce.
Oh yeah.
You remember Russell Wilson was like looking like a 24-year-old, as a 24-year-old, looking like a 37-year-old dad in terms of his wardrobe and kind of his, just his aura, as the kids say nowadays.
Yeah, I guess.
And,
I guess to say that.
He got transformed into like a sex symbol
Yeah.
by Sierra. So I think we're going to see a similar glow up for Travis Kelce. So let's move to trade number 2 from Jake. He traded Jonathan Brooks and a 2025 first for Christian McCaffrey and Jalen Phillips. Now, Cal, Jalen Phillips is the big wild card. He's on the wall right here. We love Jalen Phillips. But this man isn't an
Injured, right?
Yes, coming off the Achilles. Looking good, playing golf. I think he played 18 holes recently, Addy.
Put that in the spreadsheets,
Put that in the sheet. He
It's
loves
in there.
golf.
It's in
there. So I don't know really how to value Jalen Phillips right now to say all that. So really, potentially elite IDP asset, but injured. Kind of just a big question mark for IDP right now. So Jonathan Brooks, 2025 first for Christian McCaffrey, and question mark Jalen Phillips.
Is this the same team that just, or this like a separate one? Because if it's the same team that went in with
Same
Kelsey,
team.
well then yeah, if you want to go in with Christian McCaffrey, who just got an extension, yes, I think long term, in maybe 2 to 3 years, you could be looking at this and going, man, Jonathan Brooks has turned into that. But like, I'm totally fine with it. If you just want to win, like we get questions all the time too of people. It's like, oh, what should I do? It's like, you want to win. The goal is to win a championship. And so if you're able to kind of take your pieces and turn them into Travis Kelce and Christian McCaffrey, who is, yes, the number 1 player in offensive fantasy football, like do it. Like just do it. So I'm fine with it.
Okay, so here's the lesson. Kyle, it's the same thing in IDP. Essentially tons of teams in IDP won last year because of Khalil Mack. Very similar situation. You could have sold, an up-and-coming edge rusher or linebacker for what people are seeing as like an aging edge, an aging lineman. Khalil Mack, Demario Davis. It's really interesting in Dynasty, not only offense, but also in IDP. You want to be young. You want to have the young, fun players and everything, but you win championships a lot of times with the Bobby Wagners who are 33 years old, with the Khalil Macks that are 32 and 33. So it is interesting now that this guy has traded Travis Etienne, Jonathan Brooks, and a 25 first, but now has Ramondre, CMC, Travis Kelce, and Jalen Phillips. So, yes, seemingly going for it.
He's trying to win.
Exactly.
I think he's trying to win right now. Just in a vacuum, I would rather have the Brooks and 2025 first side. But if you're pushing your chips in, which it seems like Jake is, flipping your assets into the package or the package of players that Bobo just mentioned, I can get behind that. I agree with Kyle. The point is to win. So if you have a chance to go win, go do it. Addy, what about you on this one?
Yep. Yeah, a lot of trades like that tonight, rebuilding versus win now.
Yep. Context is important. Yep. So final one from Jake here. He traded Jalen Petre for a 2025 third-round pick.
Yeah.
Good.
I think that's a pretty nice cash out.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, there could be a world where Jalen Petre has a nice little bounce back, this next year. But who cares?
Yeah.
By the time the 2025 draft gets here, you'll be happy you have that early to mid third. There's always, that'll be like a top 5 IDP or a Javon Baker or Jalen Polk.
Sure.
So you'll be fine.
Yep, I agree. That's a great cash out for Jalen Petre. So, yeah, just Jake, depends on what you're going for, buddy. But if you are pushing the chips in to win this year, I think that's a pretty nice haul that you got there. So let's move on to the next trade from @TAllenJonesFF on Twitter. He traded Hollywood Brown, Montez Sweat, and a 2026 4th-round pick for Max Crosby. So important context in this league, right, is that this is a 10-team league, so consolidation of top-end talent pays dividends. this guy said. And then we start 2 QBs. There's an optional super flex, so you can start 3. It's tight end ultra premium, so their receptions and first downs are worth a lot. Them and the edges are super valuable. Everything is scored. The scoring is very aggressive. Max Crosby had 449 points last year. So he is acquiring a Max Crosby asset that is very, very valuable in this league format. So again, Hollywood Brown, Montez Sweat, 2026 fourth for Max Crosby. Basically, Hollywood Brown and Montez for Max Crosby. Addy, what do you think?
Yeah, I'll take Max Crosby for that price.
I think so too.
Hollywood Brown, like he's like a wide receiver 3, 4, and he'll probably be frustrating, with all the mouths that are there to feed in Kansas City. So, yeah, I mean, let's go ahead and get edge 1 or 2, in most people's minds.
Yeah. Kyle, I need a little bit of help here because I think I'm pretty clearly on the Max side as well, but what's your outlook for Hollywood Brown this season?
Not good. You kind of mentioned it, Addy. It's like whoever the wide receiver 2 is on this team, they could be okay. He might be the wide receiver 3, behind Rice, behind Worthy, and behind Kelsey. So it's like you're really asking him to be this downfield threat that this team hasn't needed. They've kind of morphed into, hey, we're going to beat zone and do it differently. So like, is he just going to be running some MVS routes out there for them? Like he's regressed a ton, been terrible against zone. And then this stat, I found it out the other day, like he has as many games of 10 plus fantasy points over the last 3 years as Tyler Boyd. Like Hollywood Brown has done nothing to be an explosive player over the last 2 or 3 years. He's gotten a ton of targets, but it's not worth anything. I'm curious because I looking at this, I'm like, I think I would want Max Crosby. He's 26. I do have Montez Sweat in my contract league. I inherited Montez Sweat. Should I be happy? Should I be excited?
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I was going to say, I bet like Montez Sweat probably scored like 300 points in this format, around that range. So yeah, he's a solid, like high end edge 2 type.
Yes. Max Crosby is like at the top of the mountain. Montez Sweat is maybe a tier or 2 down from that, but you still feel very good about Montez Sweat. But if you're giving up Montez plus a wide receiver 3-4 plus a 4th round pick 2 years from now, I think that's a pretty clear slam dunk win for getting Max Crosby.
Yeah, I do expect Montez Sweat to probably have his best season he's had.
I think so too.
I mean, at last year, once he got to, he had a good first half in Washington.
He was, I think, the leading sack getter for the Commanders and the Bears.
Yeah, that makes sense,
right? I think he had 12 on the season,
especially
or something.
for the Bears.
Had 6
the Bears
and 6.
had
nobody. So yes, you should feel very good about Montez Sweat, Kyle. Let's move to the next trade here. It is from Ryan Dennis. I love this, short and sweet. Traded Kyle Hamilton and the 210, which became Cole Bishop, for the 108, which became Brock Bowers. You have done that single-handedly, by the way. It is a 2-point tight end premium league, 10 teams. So again, Kyle Hamilton and Cole Bishop for Brock Bowers essentially is what the trade breaks down to. Slam dunk.
Beautiful.
That's a beautiful finesse.
That's how you
Ryan.
do it, man.
We like that a lot. So, Bobo,
yeah,
you on the train with us here?
No reason to
No reason to belabor here.
Y'all love Brock Bowers?
No.
Wow.
All right, Kyle. Yeah, what's your outlook on Brock Bowers?
It's tough because it's a opportunity cost question with him because wherever he's going in leagues is higher than where we usually see tight ends that perform for fantasy. So 108, it's fine. I'm totally fine with that in a tight end premium league. I think that's a steal actually, but a lot of times people are taking Brock Bowers as if in year 1 he's going to do what Sam Laporta did, which is just not normal. It doesn't happen. So it's probably going to be a slow burn. I hate Luke Getsy, the offensive coordinator. I think that he should not have a job in the NFL. So that's like another issue because they have a problem. It's the old John Madden thing. Like if you have 2 quarterbacks, you don't have one. So they have issues with the Raiders. So it's really hard for me to be bullish on year 1 Brock Bowers. But in this instance, what you're saying here is, 2 safety. Cole Bishop's a safety, right?
That's right. Yeah.
Okay. Bills.
Yep.
Yeah.
Look at
Utah.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Keep
Okay.
going.
There's more. Nickname in high school.
His mother's name. At the end of the day, I think it just makes sense in this league. Like I like what you got here, buddy.
Yes, that's well done. Well done, Ryan. We like that a lot.
Love both those safeties.
Yes. But if I can get Brock
But-
Bowers in a 2-point tight end premium league,
Cole
But don't
Bishop
forget
at
their
210?
safeties.
yeah, exactly.
That is wild.
Wow.
Well, and especially I love getting Brock Bowers at 108 in
Oh,
a
yeah.
2-point tight end premium league.
Yeah, that's really good stuff.
That's really nice. So we got a question from the chat here from Wallbang. He says, 12-team, 1 QB, start 9, full PPR. I'm trading away Etienne, Devontae Adams, and my 2025 third-round pick for George Pickens, Rashee Rice, and Levante David. I have Bijan and Gibbs, as well as Ayuk, London, Pittman, Flowers, and Godwin. And his current linebackers are Terrell Bernard, Brooks. That would be, I'd have to look up who Brooks is.
Probably Jordan Brooks.
Jordan Brooks, thank you. Yes, Dolphins, Jordan Brooks, Kaiser White, and Ivan Pace. So,
Those are good linebackers.
yeah, 12-team, 1 QB, start 9, full PPR. He's trading away Etienne, Devontae Adams, and a 25 third for Pickens, Rice, and Levante David.
Oh man, I don't know.
Why are you trying to acquire Rashee Rice right now? You know, I
It
guess
seems
maybe
like full price Rashee Rice too.
yes, absolutely. This is not discounted.
I think the pieces I like best are on the side he's giving up with
Yeah.
ETN. And I mean, I don't know how we feel about Devontae Adams for 2024,
I still feel
but
great about him.
Yeah, and
I
even if-
probably feel better about him than Pickens or Rice. I don't know. That's close.
Yeah, Pickens could blow up. I mean, I understand that upside there.
Both teams, that's bad quarterbacks for both teams. But
Yeah.
and then Levante David, you've already got Terrell Bernard, Jordan Brooks, Kaiser White, Ivan Pace. I don't know that. I mean, we love Levante David. I'm always in favor of getting Levante David, but I don't think you necessarily needed him.
It's not that bad of a trade. I mean, Rice. You know, if Rice gets it together, no more silly stuff.
No more Rasheed, no more from you. Kyle, what do you think here? Because Levante David is the only piece in here on the IDP side, and his linebackers are pretty well set. So I think this is kind of an unnecessary add-in. What do you think just looking at the offensive pieces, kind of weighing this out?
Yeah, I think that's a good way of looking at it. It's like, okay, I get it seems fair to me. Like I understand it, but based on your team, just because you have Bijan and Gibbs, I wouldn't just trade away ETN just for the sake of adding more wide receivers. And I love Pickens. We've talked him up a lot on our show, but you're really kind of rolling the dice in that area. And then it seems like adding a linebacker where you already have an area of strength. I do like trading Devontae Adams a year too early. That's what we usually say. If you're 31 years old or old, like trade them a year early, their value is going to go down. I get that. So I don't know. Like I look at the other wide receivers on the team, Ayuk, London, Pittman, Flowers, Godwin. It's like Pickens is you're going to be so frustrated of who you're going to pick to flex each week between Pickens and Rice and all of those guys. So part of it's an emotional decision of just like, what do you want to do with your team? Do you want to just go crazy because George Pickens went off for 190 on your bench? Or you played him the week that he had one catch? Like that's what's going to happen just in reality. So I think it's just not a trade that has to happen. And in that instance, I'd rather just keep ETN, the ETN side.
Yeah, ETN's the piece I like best in this trade in like his own tier.
Oh, absolutely.
So,
But you guys love David, right?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
David's great, but you have 4 viable starting linebackers. So I don't think that's a piece that moves the needle for me in this trade.
I just remember I traded for Levante David recently. It was a kind of a decently big deal. I traded away Dalton Kincaid for a 2025 first and Levante David.
Wow.
Oh, wow. I like that quite a bit
I
for
had
you.
Mark Andrews at tight end, so
Yeah.
I'm fine there.
Okay.
Yeah, just cash out, get you first.
I think
get
so.
you Levante.
Get a reroll next year.
Yep.
Nice little chip in Devontae.
Yeah, exactly.
Levante. Yeah, just throw him in there.
He joins Patrick Queen, Roquan Smith,
Oh, boy.
and CJ Mosley, I think.
Just a filthy
Just
linebacker
a little
room.
flex.
Yeah, we're all right.
We have to stop trading with Adam. Guys, that's the moral of the story. Stop trading with Adam. All right, so Wallbang, thank you very much for the question. We appreciate you kicking that over to us. All right, next up here, we got a couple questions from Steve Turvey on Twitter. So Steve is in a 32-team dynasty.
Yow.
Yeah, well, these kinds of leagues are insane. He said both picks acquired in the trade were traded away, but we'll include them for the sake of this conversation. It is half PPR, 2.25 per tackle. That is some juiced up tackle scoring right there. For reference, the last 2 years. We'll get to that in just a second. So, 32-team league, Steve traded Devin White in 132 for Christian Kirk in 225. So he said the last 2 seasons, and this is not surprising because that tackle scoring is mega juiced. Devin White scored 204 points and 319 points. Christian Kirk, 154 and 253. So what do we think about Devin White? And what would 132 be in a 12-team league?
Like
Is
the
that
308?
308?
Yeah, right.
308?
Yeah.
So 308. And
Devin White's a tease, right? He's just a tease.
Right. And also it's like, we're seeing that scoring, but that every linebacker scoring that,
Yeah.
Devin White sucked
Everyone's
last year,
juiced.
right? So, I mean, there was a lot of linebackers that finished above Devin White. So I don't think you need to look too much into that. And yeah, I think that we could see the bottom fall completely out of Devin White.
He could get benched.
Yeah. He got benched at
Absolutely
the end of
could get
last year. He
benched.
didn't, he only got a 1-year, $4 million deal, and it took a while for him to land a gig there in Philly. So, I mean, I don't think his market is not as hot as it once was. I mean, that dude, I don't think he's ever gotten out of the 50s as far as overall PFF grade
Yeah,
goes.
it's all red and orange. It's
Yeah.
not good.
So
So you're basically looking at Devin White and the 308 for Christian Kirk, which I like that deal. I'll take that deal. Babo?
You're taking the Christian Kirk side?
I want the Christian Kirk side.
I want
yeah.
the other side. I want
Wow.
to roll the dice with Devin White and just hope that maybe he shows me something. There's nothing else there in Philly. Maybe Nakobe Dean can stay healthy. They haven't really Jeremiah Trotter. I don't really know that he's going to
Hell,
make a
Zach
big.
Bond at this point.
Yeah.
Go on, get some hype.
If you,
You
believe
know,
the offseason drumbeat.
But here's the thing. So the 132, so the 308, you're looking at, like we talked about earlier, Jalen Polk, Javon Baker,
Potentially.
Jacob Cowling, another guy that I like. You could take a dart throw on maybe some IDP you like, Chop Robinson at the end of the third. Maybe you're getting into Cole Bishop or
Yeah.
Cooper
Junior
DeJean
Colson's been
range.
there in some leagues.
So if you
Yep.
look at those two guys versus Christian Kirk, because Kyle can attest to Christian Kirk a little bit more. I think that Christian Kirk could look really good like week 4. He has the most like familiarity. I nailed it.
Nailed it.
Familiarity
Beautiful.
with the system.
Didn't
I don't know
know
why
it.
I did it
Should've
again.
just-
Why did I do
Don't
it
go
twice?
back to the
you
well.
got too cocky.
Yeah.
But I mean, like, what
Flew
if we
too
look up
close.
in week 4 or week 5 and all of a sudden, like, BTJ and Gabe Davis are actually, like, catching some balls? I think Calvin Ridley sucked last year.
I forgot about Gabe
Evan
Davis.
Ingram and Travis Etienne caught a lot of balls last year. I think that Christian Kirk could be a nice little sell, like, come week 4, 5, 6.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
Kyle, look at it that way. Devin White's just kind of a throw-in. Look at like the 308, right, for Christian Kirk. What is your outlook for Kirk versus maybe players of the caliber that you could get around that 308 in a mixed format league?
Yeah,
Which is
you were
kinda
mentioning
some of the guys. Yeah,
the Patriots guys, maybe like Jermaine Burton, those
Yeah.
kind of dudes that are around that area. I mean, I want Kirk because here's the thing: Gabe Davis is a fun player. Addy, you forgot about him. He's not. He doesn't earn targets, and that's like a big deal. Christian Kirk is good at doing that. So that's like when you look at the offense and you kind of see there's 2 players that can earn targets on the Jaguars. It's Kirk and it's Ingram. And then the guys they added are explosive players. Like I'll give Gabe Davis that. And then Brian Thomas Jr. had one of the lowest targets per route run of any first-round wide receiver ever. I mean, it was absurdly low. The other guys are like Kadarius Toney. I mean, it's like a really, really bad list that he's a part of. So I'm rooting for Brian Thomas, but he's going to more fill a role than command targets. And so I think with Christian Kirk, like you have at least 2 years where you're going to get consistent production. I hope that Polk or Burton or Baker becomes Christian Kirk one day. That's the biggest hope. And so I'd rather have the player I know with the quarterback that just got paid. And you're going to be able to flex Christian Kirk. Like he can be a top 24 wide receiver easy.
Yeah.
And honestly, guys like Kirk in a 32-team league are
Yes.
probably like ultra valuable.
And also, like, people are sleeping on, like, his dynasty value. Like, the dude's going to be relevant for another 3-4 years.
What
Like,
is
I mean,
he?
Randall Cobb was, lasted forever. Like, Wes Welker lasted for all those slot-type guys can last forever if they're in the right offense. And I think Kirk absolutely fits that same mold. So, yeah, he's the one I'll be trying to buy. I think
He's only
he could-
27.
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
He's
He's going
got
to catch
some-
100 balls this
Yeah.
year.
There's some
Like,
tread left in the tires there.
I think so. He's a slept-on player.
All right. So
Everyone's all upset about Kirk because he signed that massive deal a few years ago, but
and-
he's been worth it. You know,
Yeah.
he's done a good job.
So let's look at Steve's next trade. Same league. Kyle, I'm actually going to kick it to you on this one because Caden Ellis for Michael Hecht, however you want to go with that, is essentially a wash depending on what you need in terms of linebacker versus DL depth. I think Caden Ellis is probably a little bit more valuable, but it's
Atlanta
not like,
Falcons, great.
Yes, Caden Ellis. So
Double L, double S.
double
love
L, double
that.
S got his 2 brothers in the league now. I think
more
right.
than that.
Jonah Ellis.
Every brother.
We got another one in there as well. We got probably another one we don't know about.
Jonah. Caden.
So Caden and Michael Hecht are pretty even. So would you rather have a 25 first or Zach Charbonnet?
I'd take the first. I like Charbonnet coming out, and what you paid last year was kind of like a late first, and you were kind of taking the gamble that like, oh, they drafted him, they have a plan. This is a different coaching staff. This is a different offensive coordinator in Seattle. So it's like logically speaking, you'd think he'd just take over more opportunities. And whenever Walker was healthy, he just didn't really see as much as we wanted to. Like he saw some volume when Walker was out, but it was one of the lowest PPR outputs from a second round running back that have seen this many touches in a long time. Like it was a bad season for fantasy. So I like Charbonnet as a depth piece, but give me a first instead.
Yeah, especially he says probably 1 through 15. Again, remember 32 team league. I'll take the first as well. Bobo, you want the first or Zach Charbonnet?
Did you know that Michael Hecht played 960 snaps last year?
That he did.
I didn't realize he played that much.
Yeah.
I don't think he's going to play that much
He's
again.
pretty bad. No, give me the first. Give me
Yeah.
the first. I'm a Ken Walker guy.
Yeah, and I like Caden Ellis better than as well.
Yes.
Caden Ellis is getting a lot of nice buzz.
He sure is.
He is. Yeah, I think he's the Atlanta linebacker you want there.
Yep.
So let's move to another set of trades. This is a sort of like how we had Coach Schneider last episode giving us, I think, 7 trades. We have another.
Let's go, Coach.
Yeah, another IDP manager giving us 7 trades
This one's
to
a
break
lot.
down. And we're just going to break these down in a vacuum because these picks led to this trade that led to this player, and there's this whole big kind of like bulletin board with the red yarn connecting all of these trades together. But we're just going to break them down in a vacuum. So Eric Tucker, 32 teams, took over the second worst team for a rebuild, and he completed 7 trades. The draft is only 2 rounds. We'll do these rapid fire. So here we go. Kyle, starting off with you. Trade number 1, Trey McBride for the 111.
I'd rather have Trey McBride.
I'd rather have Trey McBride. Addy,
Yeah, Trey McBride.
Bobo.
Bobby is hating on Trey McBride. Kyle, get him right. Get him
How dare you? How dare you? Do you care about fantasy productions or yards per out run, or do you just care about whoever the 111 could be? It's Trey McBride.
I'm going to take the 111.
Wow, you're such a contrarian. You're such a
Y'all can have
contrarian
McBride.
tonight. All right, so trade number 2 from Eric. Saquon Barkley for the 106 and Josh Sweat. Kyle, Josh Sweat is a nice like edge 2-3 option, so not a big piece in this trade.
I think depends on where this team is at. So if you're trying to rebuild, it makes a ton of sense. Saquon for the 106. Saquon's value will increase as you get closer to the trade deadline. So I feel like you could get maybe a little more, but I'm fine. I'd probably take the 106 if you are rebuilding. But if you're contending, then I would have kept Saquon.
Yeah, I would rather have 106.
It is a 32 team. I missed
Yeah.
that part. Oh, gosh.
So, I mean, so it's definitely one quarterback. So, but I mean, are they still as valuable in that type of setting with, it being 32 other starters? I'd imagine they still are pretty valuable.
Yeah, I would probably 106. Who is that in a 1 QB league? That's probably
Well, I mean, you could go Caleb or Jane Daniels, at 5 or 6 as well.
Bowers, Worthy.
Bowers. Yep.
yeah.
Rag it.
But would you rather have Saquon or those guys? I mean, does it depend on when now
I
versus
think it's a
when
good.
for the
I think it's a
future?
good cash out.
Yeah.
It's a fine cash out.
Yes.
But
I think it's
although,
a
I mean-
fair cash out. I'd rather have Saquon.
You could maybe get a little more in season if Saquon starts off hot. I mean, I think Saquon is going to ball next season.
Unfortunately, Josh Sweat's probably pretty valuable in a trade like that.
Yeah.
You know,
He's not just a throw in. I mean,
I mean,
he's
the
a-
edge waivers have to be
Pretty,
Absolutely
pretty
yeah.
barren.
horrendous.
But you talk about guys that are going to drive you crazy.
Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
you've talked about it before. Josh Sweat is not a guy that you want to have to
But
plug in week
you kind
in
of
and week
overlook
out.
it though in that type of setting when it's 32 teams because it's like,
Yeah.
man,
Everyone's hurt.
you're thankful for Josh Sweat, I'd imagine, in that type of format.
Well, just roll it to the next one because I feel like they're eerily similar. So Josh Allen and Trent McDuffie for the 110. Josh Allen is seen as a better edge, but is very similar to Josh Sweat in that he's a great best ball target because he'll get you several weeks of like 30-plus points, and then he'll get you several weeks of 3, 4, 5-point games. It's very frustrating. I'm taking the 110. I don't know where you guys
I'm probably
stand
coming
there.
down with the package.
You want McDuffie and Josh Allen for the 110?
I think Josh Allen, like you said, in a league
32
like
teams.
this,
Yeah.
32 teams, the 110, I just don't think is going to be as valuable as a top
and
8, 10 edge.
he said full IDP, so I'm assuming like
True
9 to
position
11.
Cornerbacks.
Yeah, never
Yeah.
forget.
Right.
Positions, yeah. Kyle, give us your thoughts on this next one here. Cooper Kupp, Jadeveon Clowney, Denzel Perryman, Marcus Jones. So that's edge rusher, linebacker, DB for the 114, and Will McDonald. So the Cooper Kupp, I think, is the name that jumps off the page here. So give us your Cooper Kupp temperature right now.
I think so. Declining 3 straight years in all of the metrics you care about, the yards per out run, and then, targets per out run, things that you just look at and go, okay, well, that's going to naturally happen. Someone getting older. He just announced, this is a big deal. This changes everything. Just announced that he's starting a coffee brand. So that put that in the model, see what happens,
Great name for it, yeah.
It's
Yeah.
in Arkansas.
Really?
Wow.
Close to here. I think Fayetteville.
You're
It actually
scouting?
has a little brick and mortar.
Wow.
Wow,
Yeah.
Bobo's
Kyle
all
thought he was
over
breaking
it.
news.
Yeah,
Man.
we're already down the wormhole.
Dude, your boots on the ground, man.
Boots
Okay.
on the ground, sipping that coffee, looking out at the fields in the morning.
So I'm trying to get some context for the 32 teams. So the 14th, that would normally be 202.
202, yeah.
Will McDonald's the Jets dude that
Edge
they reached
rusher,
on a
yeah.
couple years ago.
Yeah,
Yep.
definite reach. Which we like, but they also did trade for Hassan Reddick.
Yeah.
So
He does have a nose ring too, so he's
Yeah.
kind of cool.
he's kind of cool.
Yeah, I guess like it just kind of depends on where your team is at. Like Cooper Kupp in a 32 team league. If he's your wide receiver too, you got to be happy.
Mhm.
So I'm assuming you had other options here at wide receiver, and that's why you're able to do it. But yeah, the other options, at defenses, does that move you at all? Is it basically just like Kupp for the 114?
Yeah, Clowney's like a nice depth piece. Even in a league like this, he's probably like your edge 2 or 3.
He's getting old too.
Yeah, Perryman could be replaced by Colson as
Yeah.
soon as week 1, and then Marcus Jones is just a total question mark.
Right.
So I think those are all just filler pieces. It's essentially Cooper Kupp for the 114 and Will McDonald, who could maybe be like an edge 2 for you. So I think I'd rather just have Cooper Kupp.
Yeah, I think I would too.
Okay. Let's keep it rolling then. That was trade number 4. Trade number 5. Kyle, we'll start off with you on this one again. He traded the 106, Tucker Kraft, and Zach Wilson.
Zach Wilson's
Zach
hilarious.
Wilson, just thrown into this randomly. He was just like, hey, cut this guy for me. 106, Tucker Kraft, and Zach Wilson for Terry McLaurin, 131, and a 25 first, likely a top 5 pick, and Taysom Hill. So 106 this year. Even in a 32-team league, we've talked about what that pick could be. Tucker Kraft, Zach Wilson. Let's talk about Zach Wilson. No, I'm just kidding. Can you imagine? Terry McLaurin, 131, 2025 first, and Taysom Hill. What do you think on this one, Kyle? This one's kind of interesting.
I kind of just weed out Tucker Kraft and Zach Wilson, just say, is this enough for the 106? And by 106, like I know who those players are in 2024. Like I have a good idea of who this could be right now. A likely top 5 is great. It's still not locked in, and you also don't know who those players are. So is the 6th overall player better this year, in this format? So who are we saying? Bowers, we're saying Worthy, Keon Coleman, players around that, Jonathan Brooks.
Yep.
Is it better than Terry McLaurin, a top 5 pick, the 31st pick, and who cares about Taysom Hill? It feels pretty even, but it kind of matters what season of your team you're in. Like Terry McLaurin would be a very weird piece to trade for if you're rebuilding and wanting to get a top 5 pick next year. So I guess I'm just trying to figure out the season of where this team is at. That matters.
I think they're blowing it up. I think that's right. They're cashing out all these old pieces, right?
But it seems like that he's trying to get the team in better shape. I think these 7 trades were part of an effort to continue to rebuild this team.
Yeah, get young, get a bunch of picks.
Yep. And Eric, we can't break down all the context, like I said, because it was too many pieces. But he did end up with a ton of picks.
I like the package side. I think Terry McLaurin could be in a really good spot next season. And then I'll take the shot on the potential top 5 pick. I mean, Terry McLaurin could be a top 24 wide receiver next year.
I think I'd take the package side as well.
What are we going to do when the Commanders trade Terry McLaurin for Brandon Ayuk?
Wow.
You know what I had thought about,
I felt probably a
I
little
feel like
better.
Just copy and paste the Brandon Ayuk stat line to McLaurin.
That would be fun. I know that's a little far-fetched. You know what's not so far-fetched I thought about was what if they move like one of Deron Payne or Jonathan Allen? You know, they don't have Eric Armstead anymore to go with Javon Hargrave for Ayuk. I don't know exactly how the contracts would have to work out, and I'm sure there'd have to be some picks involved. But they just moved Montez Sweat last year, so it's pretty clear that, like, they got Johnny Newton now. They want to grow young with that line.
Could they flip that pick that they got for Sweat? What if it's Deron Payne and a second for Brandon Ayuk?
Yeah.
I mean, is that enough for San Francisco to cash out? Probably.
Yeah, probably so.
That would be fun. So, Kyle, which side are you coming down on? You going with the 106 or the package?
I mean, the 106 and the top 5 next year, and that's really what it comes down to. Is like you're playing chicken. Like, what is that pick really going to be?
Yeah.
So I think I would just lean into the package, knowing like it could be a better pick, and you're getting Terry McLaurin and another late first-round pick.
I do always hate that, though. I feel like I've done that before to where it's like, this guy's going to be terrible. And you look up and you're like, dang it, he made the freaking
for sure.
playoffs.
Now it's the 108 or something like that. So second to last trade here, trade number 6, the 114 and the 201 to move up to 107 and snag Rome Odunze. I think we all love that trade. That's a great move up there to get Odunze.
Oh, yeah.
Last one here, trade number 7, the 111 and the 131. So 111 is just like the 111, but the 131 would be like the 30
something
307 or something like
You're close.
307.
Yep.
So the 111 and the 307 for Stephon Diggs and Najee Harris. And he did say that he intends to trade Stephon Diggs and Najee Harris to contenders in season. So this is just a rental. I don't know, Kyle. What do you think about these pieces that he gave up some nice picks for?
It feels like a diversion from the previous strategy, which was to acquire picks. And so I have friends in my league that are this way, that they're like, I'm trading for this player so that I can trade them. And it's just a lot of times wishful thinking that you're even going to get enough in return for aging players. I mean, like, yes, I think Najee Harris has a place for a contending team in a 32 team league that somebody would want him, but I don't know if trading the 111 is that helpful for you.
And also, if you let it be known now, if your league mates are watching this, or if you've declared this publicly, or if anyone knows that you're acquiring these guys to move them later, you lose all your leverage because you've declared you're not intending to keep these guys. So I don't think you have a whole lot of bargaining power if you're making
the value's fine. It's fine.
Yeah.
I think the dude who made this deal is probably dunking on you in a bunch of people's DMs. Like Diggs and Harris, pretty declining assets for regardless of the 131, just the 111.
So the
is enough.
307
and the
that
111
that could be like some of the offensive guys we've mentioned, like the Pats guys, Jermaine Burton. It could be one of the top edge rushers. So I think I'd rather have the pick side. Addy?
I think it's fair.
It's a fair deal. I think I would just rather have the picks.
I guess it depends on where I'm at. I feel like it's a little light, though. Honestly, I mean, I think I'd want a little more for Diggs.
And if you're cashing out on these guys,
Harris,
aren't you probably getting young players or draft picks? So why not just hold these 2 picks and get the guys that you want right now instead of having to roll the dice down the road that you get assets that you actually like better than what you could get here? I don't know.
You like Diggs for this season?
I think he could be fine. Yeah.
I like him third best on that Texans wide receiver depth chart.
It has been just Diggs in Buffalo. Gabe Davis.
Whoa. Gabe Davis would like to tell you. No, you're right.
You were just hyping up old Gabe,
Old Gabe.
weren't you?
I
That
know.
blocking
Look
is going to be
at
so
ya.
nice.
That's true.
All
I
right,
did a little
so
boomerang.
Eric, we're wrapping up here. We're going to do a quick question here from Bailey Fultz. And Addie, I'll throw this one to you. Would you rather have Dre Greenlaw with the injury or a younger draft dart throw type in Demarion Overshone in Dynasty? I think I'd rather have Dre.
Yeah, I mean, DeMarvion just tore his ACL.
Yeah, so he's injured as
Can I
well.
get someone without a major injury?
So that's a no. We'd rather have Dre Greenlaw. Another question here from Wallbang. So he's wheeling and dealing right now in his league. He says, sounds like the Pickens owner will move him for Adams in the 2025 third. Does that sound like a better swap?
Yeah, I'll do that.
Yes,
With it.
I would do that.
Okay, so there you go. Make the trade, Wallbang.
Good job. Yes.
Yeah, way to negotiate. We've got a few more here, and a lot of these actually come from, all of these come from members of the IDP show team, so we can whiz through these. This is a fun one, though.
we can
they're
ignore
not
these.
important.
Yeah, we can just give very little opinion on these. They all suck. You guys are all terrible at trading. So Aaron said traded Josh Jacobs, Jamison Williams, Calvin Ridley, and Kyle Duggar, plus the 304 for Brandon Ayuk and the 202.
Arn,
He has-
Arn, what are you doing?
He has Gibbs, JT, and Bijan at running back, and Ayuk is now his wide receiver 3 instead of Ridley, behind Lamb and Garrett. So speaking of the two wide receivers that we just saw in a previous trade, so Josh Jacobs, Jamison Williams, Calvin Ridley, Kyle Duggar, and the 304 for Brandon Ayuk and 202.
202 is nice. I like that a lot, too. That's a nice little throw in there. Yeah, I mean, the 202 maybe bumps it up a little bit for me. I do like Ayuk the best out of the deal long-term for Dynasty.
I just don't know, like, I think it was, Kyle, you were saying earlier, like, why you've got running back depth, that's great, but why not just keep the good running backs?
Yeah. Yeah, Josh Jacobs could, like, be, I remember I traded Josh Jacobs away, like, before he had that, like, RB1 year a couple years ago. And, I mean,
You
same
were old
thing
man
could-
filled with regret.
Sure, yes. I mean, that was like a league winner.
Yeah.
So, I mean, yeah, that can happen.
I get the logic. Kyle, what do you think on this one?
Yeah, I think when you have wide receivers, so they have Lamb and Garrett Wilson, there's this feeling when you get to acquire another like top tier stud that you're just going to overpower the rest of your league. And it's a good feeling when you look at your roster and you're like, oh, I'm flexing Brandon Ayuk, as opposed to a boom bust Calvin Ridley, Jamison Williams, who, yeah, if I were a betting man, I would just say that he will never be a top 30 wide receiver ever. Like, just it's really hard to be able to do that. So at the end of the day, I'm totally fine with this. And I agree, the 202 makes it feel a little bit better that you didn't overpay for just one player, where Josh Jacobs as an RB4 sounds great. But yeah, Gibbs, JT, Bijan, like, you're crushing it there. And so you want to kind of go for the kill and get Brandon Ayuk. I'm totally fine with that. There is a level of risk with Brandon Ayuk. So just know that he's a weird dude. He's been a weird dude for a couple of years. I mean, Kyle Shanahan said that. So who knows what's going to happen. But I would take the Ayuk side.
Okay, so Ayuk side for Kyle, you're going with package or the Ayuk side?
I'll go with the Ayuk side.
Ayuk side. I'm going with the package side. Bobo?
No, I'm going with Ayuk side.
Okay.
Okay, that's the first time we've agreed, Bobby. Way to
Hey,
go.
Look at you guys.
Arn knows he's flexing. He's just trying to show
I
everybody
just
what
would
he's
rather
got.
have the depth. I know Jamison Williams and Calvin Ridley are not like the sexiest options.
Calvin
but
Ridley could be fine. People are hating on him because those videos that were going around. He was also getting open, people.
yeah,
You know?
Yeah, I just would rather have war of attrition fantasy season. I don't typically like to be the one trading away quality depth to consolidate in like elite assets.
But for this trade to work, 2 of those 3 have to work out this year. Josh Jacobs, J-Mo, or Calvin Ridley. 2 of the 3 have to do something. And the odds of 2 of those 3 guys doing something relevant for you, to where you can start them, I'm going to bet against that this year.
Okay.
I think that's what it boils down to
Okay.
for me.
All right. So Jake,
I like that 202 he got. That's
Oh,
nice.
yeah.
that's
Good
nice.
job,
Yeah,
dude.
that makes it feel a little more palatable there. So Jake traded Jalen Wright and a 2025 third and a 2026 fifth for Jack Campbell in a contract league. When I mentioned earlier that giving up a 2025 first for Jack Campbell felt rich, this is why, because we see here basically a third next year and a fifth. I mean, that's just that's a waiver priority 2 years from now. Jalen Wright, 3 years, 1.4 million average. Campbell, 2 years, 4.8 million average. Start 9 and 9. I mean, this was a complete dunk, I think, in terms of acquiring Jack Campbell. If I'm acquiring Jack Campbell, this is the price I want to do it for.
Yeah, because you probably didn't have to pay too much for Jalen Wright. I've seen him go like, hopefully you didn't pay too much. Hopefully you didn't. I've seen him go in the second round, but I've also seen him go like in the fourth round too. So hopefully you got him in the fourth. But yeah, I think I'm totally fine with that. Jalen Wright could have, some awesome years, but Jack Campbell could, like we mentioned earlier in the show, he could be like a top 10 linebacker for the next decade as well. So yeah, I'll roll that dice there.
Yeah. What do you think about Jalen Wright there in Miami, Kyle?
I mean, it's a fun landing spot. I think we all are like, oh, this is cool. Like, he knows how to use his players. They moved up in the fourth round to get him. And it's a weird thing. Like, when you go through the transactions of teams moving up, usually it's in the same round or, a couple of spots. They gave up next year's third round pick. So they basically thought this guy's so valuable that a third rounder next year, so a round ahead of where he was going this year. So that is significant to me. But yeah, I agree. Like, in this format, it's like, he's a shot in the dark. If you're going to get a linebacker that you can use, it's totally fine. But I think Jalen Wright is going to be one of those players that's like, can break through a year or two from now and give some spike weeks on a really fun offense. Their offensive line is so weird. They can run block as good as anybody in the league, and pass block, they are atrocious. Like, I'm terrified for Tua. That's why they get the ball out so fast. So they are a fragile offense if you really think about it. But I think he's a fun piece. But I'll take the Campbell side.
Yeah, Campbell's side. I think the Dolphins are kind of like the new Rams in terms of like F them picks, because trade for Tyreek, trade for Bradley Chubb, trade for Jalen Ramsey. We see this trade now for Jalen Wright. I don't think they care much about draft capital there. I think they're trying to consolidate some stud players. So yeah, I think that is notable, but I think the Dolphins throw picks around like candy as well. So
they're in a tough situation. No
yeah,
picks.
I don't want to pay
cap.
Tua. I don't want to pay Tua. I can't win in January with that guy.
They're a little desperate,
Oh,
you
yeah.
know? I mean, because I don't feel like that team's in a better spot this year than it was last year.
I think it's in a worse spot.
I think
you got your top two edge rushers coming off devastating injuries.
Yeah, defense is not as good.
You're bringing in Jonnu. How many more years does Tyreek have?
That is kind of fun, though.
Did Waddle get paid yet? He has not been
He
paid.
just got an extension this offseason.
Okay.
Yeah.
Tyreek
will stick around for a little bit longer, I bet.
I'm kind of interested in Jalen Wright. A-Chain couldn't really show last year. He's like really small dude. Say whatever you want to about the offensive line as far as like, the ability to keep Tua upright. I mean, that's important. But also like A-Chain is injury prone a little bit maybe. Mostert is old. I don't know. I like Jalen Wright probably. It's closer to me than I understand. Like most IDP people are going to value Jack Campbell over Jalen Wright. So I get it, but I also get the acquiring Jalen Wright side too. Because I'll be the negative person on Jack Campbell to where like, man, Alex Anzalone, it's just hard to look away from that dude. And it's still probably going to be 2 more years of him. And even if Jack Campbell gets more PT this year, I don't know that he ever walks into that like LB1 category. I'm with y'all. I agree. Jack Campbell's great.
I think it's a fair price. It's
Yeah.
just like, who do you want to have in the deal?
Yeah, no, I don't think it's like far off, because also that 2025 third, that could be next year's Jalen Wright,
Yeah.
So I mean, yeah, it's fine, especially if you're a little scared of Jack Campbell. I think it's a fine cash out. You probably spent like maybe a late first or early second on him.
Yeah. Kyle, were you going to say something there?
Yeah, I was just wondering, like, where would Jalen Wright go in rookie drafts this year? And then where would be the first couple of linebackers in rookie drafts? Like, the Edrin Cooper or those guys. So basically, like, where would you take him out of, you were saying like second, third, even see him go in the fourth.
Yeah.
Where would the first linebacker go in the rookie draft to kind of gauge like where he's going IDP leagues?
Earliest I saw in this class was like mid-second round. Edrin Cooper, Junior Colson, sometimes with those guys were interchangeable 1-2.
I think in sharp leagues, I feel like Jalen Wright was going second round.
Yeah, late second, usually third in most leagues. But you start sprinkling IDP and he can slip. He can slip to the fourth round.
What really should have happened this year, though, I feel like from like a production standpoint, your Dallas Turner, your Latu, and then your Jared Verse were like back second. Like they should be the first IDPs off the board.
Yeah, the
Definitely.
linebackers.
Cooper and Colson feel way more comfortable, honestly, in that same range as Jalen Wright, right in that like 306 range.
Yes, it's around the same range, I think,
Right.
if you looked at like across a bunch of leagues.
But as far as like dynasty value, Edgerrin Cooper's probably going to have more dynasty value than whatever round Jalen Wright was drafted in. What was he, like a 5th, 6th round NFL running back?
4th.
4th. Okay, so a little bit higher, but still, Edgerrin Cooper should probably have a longer shelf life in dynasty
I
than
would think
Jalen
so.
Wright.
I would
Yeah.
think so. Okay, so one more trade here, fellas, from Scott, Professor IDP. It is another massive league. I don't know what is with our. We just attract some degens at the IDP show. 84 teams, 6-player copies, so it functions like a 14-team league basically. 5 IDP positions, so true positions. Start 11 IDP, no position left behind scoring. He traded a 2025 second-round pick in the 208 to 210 range. They kind of know in this league where their picks are going to be. So 208 to 210 in 2025, and a 2025 third, 301 to 303 range. Oh, no, I'm sorry. He traded the 2025 second for the third, C.J. Gardner-Johnson and Budda Baker. So, Addy, what do you think about this one?
Yeah, I mean, I like that. He just basically moved back around 5-ish spots.
Yeah.
And picked up CJ, who has CB designation in this league,
Ooh.
and Budda Baker. Important context. He said CJ replaces Asante Samuel. Budda Baker replaces Rayshon Jenkins as projected starters. And he said the waivers are picked pretty clean in this
Yeah,
league.
I love that. That's
so
great.
just basically move back a little bit to pick up 2 DBs that we like a lot for 2024.
Yep.
I think Budda could be a fun little acquire right now.
Oh, yeah.
If all of a sudden Arizona decides to move on from him and give him a shot somewhere else,
Yep.
you could see a little rejuvenated year from old Budda.
I think so.
All right. Well, there you go, folks. Your trades, both offense and IDP, broken down here on the show. Kyle, as we sign off, we usually ask folks, like, what do you got coming up? I want to hear, what are you thinking in this IDP contract league that you're in? What kind of moves are you looking to make? How are you wanting to make this team better? What are you thinking there?
Yeah, I felt good in my rookie draft. Now, I might have looked at y'all's rankings and texted Josh a ton to basically say, get my good picks. So I have Dallas Turner. I have Edgerrin Cooper. So I felt good about where I took them, which was like late second and then early third for Cooper. So I feel like I'm building a great locker room, guys. Let me just bring that up. Nobody's talking contract stuff yet. I've only had this team for a couple months, but I think I'm mostly intrigued of how do I value these players that feel ambiguous to me, and then still retraining my brain from the very first show I did with you guys. Like, so cornerback is guys that are just bad enough to not get cut or benched. Like, I have to retrain my brain from offense. So I like that challenge, though. I like that a lot. But I feel good. My team has some good pieces on offense, but my wide receiver 1's Nico, and then my wide receiver 2 is like Dobbs. So I'm kind of struggling with this contract league. There's a couple of super teams I found out really quickly, and so I'm going to have to outsmart them.
Yes. And that's why we're here, folks. We're here to help you outsmart your league mates, especially in IDP contract leagues, because that's what we love and that's what we excel at. So,
yeah, just get that offense right first. You'll know how to do that. And then, you'll take care of the defense through waivers and, draft picks.
Yep.
So you'll be fine.
I have found, though, that a lot of the, the mixed offensive and IDP teams that people, acquire, they've got dynasty holds in there. They pay way too much attention to the offensive side, and then they just start a roster on defense. Whereas, like, honestly, if you pay attention to IDPs and if you can get the scoring right with just a mediocre offense, you can compete.
Yep.
If you've got some other dummies in there that are just like
you can scrape
getting
together some wins.
Linebackers in there
By having an IDP edge. So from Kyle's lips to your ears, folks, get in an IDP league, get in a contract league. It stretches some different muscles. It's a new challenge, and it's a lot of fun, and you get to participate in something like this, the IDP Trade Show. Kyle, thanks so much for coming on, man. It was good to have you back in the virtual Sode Shack with us. You guys are rocking and rolling right now on the Dynasty podcast. Give us the details on that and the DFS and betting podcast. What do you guys have cooking over there?
We just had an episode come out for Dynasty called Dynasty Bench Warfare. which
Oh, I
I
love
was
that.
pretty excited to walk through benches. 'Cause I think a lot of times everyone screenshots their top 10 players and they're like, oh, this is, these are the guys that I got. They look good. And then you look at people's benches and it's like, oh, there's no strategy. So I just put out an article about 5 steps so you don't fart around this summer with your dynasty bench. So that was fun. And then, yeah, we got some fun stuff coming out in July. Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome. I had to just blind hit that because I couldn't hear it. So I'm assuming that was the fart noise.
So yeah, footballer stuff. We got a lot of fun stuff. And I don't have anything else to plug. It's just me.
Folks, go get the Ultimate Draft Kit. The Fantasy Footballers, it has won me multiple titles using the Ultimate Draft Kit in the in-season rankings. So go check that out. Listen to the Fantasy Footballers. Listen to the Dino Show and the DFS and Betting Show. And listen to the IDP Show and the IDP Trade Show. Kyle, let's do this again. Now that you're in this IDP league, we want to have you back on to help balance out the IDP info with the offensive info. And it's just a beautiful fusion, my friend.
Like a good relationship, a good marriage.
A good cup of coffee, like Cooper
Like
Cup
that
and
brisket
Fayetteville.
on the board.
Brisket
Yes,
on the board at
sir.
Buc-ee's. Yeah, next
open.
episode coming to you all from Buc-ee's. We will be live in person at
Really is.
Buc-ee's. So
I'm gonna get up tomorrow morning early and go.
you
get
better
some
go
I
bring me
truly
some
am.
brisket tacos
do
for
it?
breakfast. Let's do
Done.
it. Well, thank you all again for tuning in. Thank you for sending in your trades. This show does not happen unless you send us your trades. So we appreciate it. We'll maybe do this show again before the season starts. We'll see. Looks like a good turnout tonight, so we appreciate you all tuning in. But next week, we will be back with Top 24 Dynasty Linebackers. And the week after that will be the debut of our brand new show. We just announced IDP Drafts focused on IDP Best Ball. We will be doing an IDP Madness mock draft rounds 1 through 8. Me and 3 other buddies from the IDP Show team. So make sure you check that out. Lots of cool stuff cooking. But until next week when we're talking linebackers, y'all take care, and we'll see you soon.